Ray Hunt and the widow of Officer Charles Clark, Hildy Clark. We're here to discuss another chapter of the ongoing saga of formerly convicted killer and death row inmate Alfred Brown and the family up here that has joined me in their never-ending search for justice. For quite some time, Alfred Brown and his attorneys have been seeking a declaration of actual innocence so that he may receive compensation from the state. In order to receive those funds, the law reads as follows. The state's attorney, the DA's office, states that no credible evidence exists that inculpates the defendant. Layman's terms, that means that no reasonable person would believe that this suspect had anything to do in these murders. In Alfred Brown's case, it's our belief that the district attorney can't touch that standard with a 10-foot pole. In fact, to this day, Alfred Brown remains the prime #1 suspect in the murder of HPD officer Charlie Clark. So much so that it's our belief that HPD will be bringing this case once again to the grand jury to seek a true bill on him. So why would DA Ogg name Alfred Brown actually innocent? She reviewed this case for over a year before hiring a special prosecutor to handle this. It's our opinion that at best, she has been completely incompetent in handling this case, and at worst, she's politically motivated to allow Alfred Brown to walk free to curry favor with people that she made promises as candidate Ogg. She met with them prior to even becoming DA, saying that she was going to look at this case. Either way, it's completely unacceptable for the DA of one of the largest counties in the nation to conduct her business in this manner. She should be embarrassed and ashamed at how incompetently this matter is being handled while these families continue to suffer. To illustrate the level of incompetence at work here, DA Ogg and her staff hired a special prosecutor, John Raley, to the tune of $72,000 of taxpayer money to look at this extremely important case. To our knowledge, he's never prosecuted a criminal case before in his career. For God's sakes, he's a patent attorney. His experience extends to the Michael Morton case, which circumstances are completely different because that was a DNA case. That is not the case with Alfred Brown. The DA claims that she just got this report yesterday. The fact of the matter is, we know she's had this report for months. In HPD, we call that untruthfulness. I'll let y'all decide what you want to call it. The HPOU saw this slow-moving train wreck coming and reached out to DA Ogg on 5 separate occasions with 5 separate emails. She responded to none of them. None. Now, I'm sure she'll say that she never saw those emails, but interestingly enough, she files bar complaints on people like Dan Rizzo who miss emails. I guess we may have to file a bar complaint of our own. By the way, he was cleared of that by the Bar Association for the complaint she filed. The mere fact that I'm holding this press conference is absurd. No one in their right mind who has seen all the evidence would believe that this case would even come close to meeting the standard of actual innocence. Given the evidence that has already been presented, and that he was tried and convicted of these gruesome murders. The judge granted him a retrial based on a phone record that wasn't even a pillar of his defense the first go-around. Now, we have 2 different experts who've confirmed that the phone call Alfred Brown made was actually forwarded from the apartments near the crime scene to his girlfriend's apartment, which is consistent with the witness statement that said he picked him up from that location and he was paid $5 to transport Alfred Brown. That's just one piece, along with a mountain of evidence that will be laid out when this case is again presented to a grand jury and an indictment is sought for the murders of Alfredia Jones and HPD officer Charlie Clark. I'm now calling on the Houston Police Department to move forward with presenting this case to the grand jury so that finally the Jones and Clark family can get the justice they deserve. It is about time Kim Ogg starts thinking about the victims and their families instead of their own political agenda. And just to give you an example of how she treats victims' families, she didn't even have the decency to meet with these families before she made this announcement. She didn't even have the decency to meet with them. She called them both. Well, actually, she didn't. Her subordinates called them 15 minutes prior to the press conference to drop this bomb on them. Completely unacceptable. DA Ogg, you're the district attorney of Harris County. It's about time you start acting like it. I now would like to read some statements that have been provided to us by the family. The first is from the brother of Alfredia Jones, Kenneth Jones. We reached out to him. He wanted to be here today, but unfortunately, he wasn't given any notice of this press conference. Here's his statement. Today is a sad day for the lack of justice for the Jones and Clark families. Our lives were destroyed on April 3rd, 2003, when my sister and Officer Clark were killed. I just found out by the union that the DA's office is having a press conference. Why was my family not told of this decision? It makes me sad that they would let that murderer go free. We have lost so much in losing my sister. This is the second saddest day of my life, knowing that justice was not served. Mr. Jones got a call from Vivian King just 5 minutes before the press conference advising of the decision. He told Mrs. King that this was the lowest of the low on their part. I'd now like to read you a statement from Marlene Clark, who is Officer Charlie Clark's sister. My brother served the city of Houston for 20 years. He gave his life for the protection of others. Alfred Brown has once been convicted of his capital murder. The family is here today because the DA chose to not present the case to the grand jury. Charles was a victim of a crime. The families, his co-workers, and friends are all survivors. We as his survivors have been waiting for you to come to a decision after referring Charles's case to a special prosecutor. We now know where that lies. You say that you support victims, but you forgot who the victim is. It is Charles. He is being victimized again by you using his death as a bargaining chip to garner votes. My brother's death should not be used as a political tactic as you see fit. I will continue to stand up and support my brothers and sisters in blue whenever I see wrongdoing, and how you have handled this case, DA Ogg, was wrong. One final word. We as survivors want justice, and we deserve it. I'd now like to turn it over to past president of the HPOU, Ray Hunt, who knows this case better than anyone in this organization, as he's been working on it for quite some time. Ray, could you please come up?
I'm going to be very disorganized here. I took off to go out of town with my wife. However, when I found out that Kim Ogg was going to do this today with no notice to any of us, including the families, as Joe told you, I said, I want to come down here to make sure I'm here. The things that were said in that press conference, and we watched it live, there were several untruthful statements that Kim Ogg made. One of them, that she said that John Raley was an expert in the field. John Raley's never prosecuted a traffic ticket. And when I made these comments to the Houston Chronicle a while back and they printed those, John Raley called me. I'm not a bad guy, Ray. I'm really not. Then he had Surgans call me, a former judge even. Ray, this guy really is a nice guy. I said, Judge, let me tell you what I did. When this guy called me, he told me, I haven't ever prosecuted a case in my life. I agree with that, but I have had lots of experience where I looked at evidence. I got a brother who's a great prosecutor in Oklahoma. I said, stop. Bring him down here at our expense and let your brother review this. And your brother will tell you this person's not actually innocent. Well, he's really busy. He keeps terrorists in jail. Bring him down here. So I immediately got an email and sent it to Kim Ogg and said, we want to challenge you right now. Bring John Raley's brother down here to review this case on our nickel, and let's see what he says. This guy's no expert. This guy's a patent attorney. Secondly, she said, after I was elected, I was asked to look at this. Another lie. Read in the court cases that I just gave you. She talked to his attorneys prior to being elected in October and said she was going to look at this case. Now, when I brought that up to John Raley, he says, she disagrees with that. Okay, then let's go back to federal court and tell the judge that never happened, because that was part of the reason that the tolling stopped on this case. She's lying. She also said that yesterday John Raley gave her the final copy. That's probably true, but we call that not the whole truth. She's had multiple copies of this report since it was due on October the 31st. And Joe said she spent $70-something thousand of county money to John Raley. No, that was the initial amount. Now it's over $100,000 that she spent to John Raley. John Raley probably is a great patent attorney, and he's possibly a good guy, but he ain't no prosecutor. Just think for a second, folks. What if he had found probable cause to prosecute this case? We've just wasted over $100,000 for somebody who couldn't prosecute it. That's not what you do for a special prosecutor. She hired him for one reason and one reason only, and that was to find Alfred Brown actually innocent. Look at the cases that are highlighted there where it says, I hope you won't have to go to court after I review this case. She knew what she wanted to do from the outset of being elected district attorney of Harris County. And just like she dogged the former DA, Devin Anderson, who, by the way, did have the decency to contact these families and all the investigators and sit down with them and tell them exactly why she was not going to pursue additional charges at this time. That's what DA Anderson did, not this person. I hope this case comes back and haunts Kim Ogg, just like the case that got Kim Ogg elected that haunted Devin Anderson. She said, again, John worked closely with the homicide division. Again, not the whole truth. Not one retired or active detective from the Houston Police Homicide Division believes that this person's actually innocent. But he wants you to think that, oh, I worked with him the whole time. I did not change his report, she says. Well, why did you get 4 or 5 different copies? Why did you get several drafts that were sent to you? One of them, I believe, you even gave to Jim Leitner to review. You know why she did that? Because that was another challenge we made to her in an email. I sent her an email several months ago, and I shared this with Ted Oberg from Channel 13. I sent her an email several months ago stating, you know, we have the highest respect for somebody in your office by the name of Jim Leitner. Why don't you let him review the report, and if he calls me up and says, Ray, the guy's actually innocent, we'll back off. No response. Prior to that, we sent her one and said, Kim, we know that you believe this person's actually innocent. We know you've already made your decision. This is prior to the report being made. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to have an agreed-to polygrapher. We'll agree to the one that you pick. We'll pick one together, and we'll have him polygraphed. If he passes a polygraph, we'll shut up and not say another word. Still no response. You think he was polygraphed? You damn right he was polygraphed. I'm certain of it. He can't pass a polygraph. John Rayleigh stands up there and tells you that Mr. Brown has always maintained he was not there. Well, that may be to Lisa Falkenberg. That may be to his attorney, but it wasn't to the grand jury. Why? He didn't speak to the grand jury. I wasn't even there and have a chance of having a needle put in my arm, but I don't want to go up and tell somebody I wasn't there. Not required to. Would you? Then they had the trial date. All the evidence is put on. For God's sakes, counsel, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Well, then tell the jury you weren't there. No, not going to do that either. Not going to testify. Is he required to? No. Would you, if you weren't there and had a chance of having a needle put in your arm for killing a police officer? Come on, folks. This is ridiculous. Anybody with common sense, any detective with 1 year experience can tell that there's evidence out there to convict this person. Now, what I think is really interesting is Mr. Rayleigh brought up several people's names. But one name he failed to mention was a person by the name of Cowboy Will Green. On November 13th, 2018 at 14:45 hours, I spoke with retired Sergeant Ted Boyd by phone. He advised me that while witnesses' stories have changed, one has not, and certain that this person's telling the truth. He stated that Cowboy Will Green has maintained all along that he transported Brown from the VA to Dockery's apartment on the day of the killing for $5. Not a shred of evidence that inculpates the defendant exists. That's what you have to declare somebody actually innocent. Just look at all the documentation of what Kim says in that court case there. Now, Kim's saying that she doesn't say it now. So let's go back to federal court and find out if, in fact, the tolling should have stopped. I don't believe there's a judge in Harris County that is going to review these facts, take it to a grand jury, and say, you know what, this person is actually innocent. Not one credible person who's ever investigated a capital murder and tried a capital murder will review these facts and say that Alfred Brown is actually innocent. The only person saying that is Kim Ogg. By the way, when I talked about Jim Leitner, I think it was really interesting that he wasn't standing up there with her whenever she made this declaration today. She then says in one of her final statements, the system has worked in this case. The system worked for you, Kim. You are a disgrace to Harris County in this decision that you made. You are a disgrace to her family, and you're a disgrace to this man's family and his wife. And I don't care who quotes me in saying that. I'm disgusted with Kim Ogg today. Any questions, we'll answer them.
My name's Hilda Clark, and my husband's case has become very complicated with so many people involved. Since Kim Ogg took office, I tried to meet with her several times. She never had the decency to meet with me. I know she met with Alfred Brown several times, and I don't know what she promised him, but she hired John Raley to support him in his case. I know Dan Rizzo has been thrown under the bus. I appreciate everything he has done for me and the families. I support him, and if we had to do it all over again, I would want Dan Rizzo to support us. I know from day one that there's people very close to Alfred Brown that have been protecting him. I know that witnesses have been threatened. We have witnesses that put Alfred Brown, Jobert, and Gillespie at the VA apartments the night before the crime happened. They put him at the apartments prior to the crime being committed, and then afterwards. We have those witnesses. But every single one of those witnesses have been threatened, and we know who is threatening them, and it wasn't Dan Rizzo. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I am fighting the system. I should not have to fight the system to get my husband justice. And with her blessing, she's going to allow Alfred Brown to collect money from the state for killing my husband. They did not get any money the day of April 3rd when they robbed that check cashing store. But now she's going to bless him with millions of dollars for killing my husband. And that we cannot allow that to happen. All I'm asking is for the community to support us and to back us up, that we go and have another trial. That's all I have to say.
I had the honor of working with Charlie as a beat mate for about a year and a half before he went day shift. Good man. Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed enough to know Miss Jones. I've also known Kim Ogg for 25 years. She was a prosecutor, as a gang prosecutor back in the 90s. I am disheartened and disgusted with what has taken place today. I expect, and every citizen of Harris County should expect, Kim Ogg to look at the eyes of both of these families and explain her actions to them. Because at the end of the day, they're the victims. They are the ones that had to suffer the loss because of the actions of Alfred Brown. She needs to do the right thing, meet with these families and look in their eyes and explain to them. I pray to God that she believes she's doing the right thing and not paying a political debt.
All right, we'll now take any questions.
Possible that it could have been somebody else and that the homicide detectives could look for another?
All I can tell you is that all the evidence that has been reviewed by our homicide detectives, the original case, the original conviction, we believe these items are accurate. As I said earlier, the biggest reason he was able to, as the county attorney put it, bluff his way out of jail was a phone record that wasn't even a pillar of his own defense, and we've already debunked that phone record.
And Maya, that's not the standard. The standard in the law for him to be declared actually innocent isn't, could there possibly have been somebody else? It was no credible evidence exists to exculpate the defendant.
No, but I guess my question was, like, if you go with, having just listened to the Ogg and her press conference, the question is, what now? Do you then go tell do you want the homicide folks at HPD to look for another person?
What now is we want the Houston Police Department to take this case to the grand jury again and present it. If he's true billed and he has to go through another trial, then so be it. If he's no billed, well, then I guess we have our answer on where this case is going, and they'll have to start looking for someone else. All right. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. No, not only have we not seen it, our police chief hasn't seen it. None of the homicide people have seen it. Only Kim Ogg has seen it, and she popped down on Friday, just during the rodeo, when we're in some other crisis at HPD. If you think that wasn't planned, you know George Soros is supporting her. You know the kind of money she has. She ain't no dummy. She knows exactly why she did it today.
Do you believe any person whose conviction has been overturned, do you think there's any person that has been wrongfully convicted ever?
I'm not even sure if that's a serious question. Yes, there are people that get wrongly convicted and we get it overturned. I put up an example, Michael Morton by DNA evidence, but that is not the case this time.
Absolutely. I love to read the report. I told John Raley I'd love to sit down and read it with him. And I also still say, let his brother read it. I don't know why you laughed on that. I looked up his brother. He's a renowned prosecutor in Oklahoma, federal prosecutor. He's not going to lie like this has been done here. And it is a lie. Anytime John Raley says, I was given no direction, maybe you weren't given direction, but it's pretty damn clear when you read the transcripts of what Kim Ogg said. She planned before she got elected to do this. And when I file the bar complaint, it's going to be on either his attorneys or Kim Ogg's attorneys because one of them's lying. John Raley's saying she never said these things that were said in federal court. So then that means Alfred Brown's attorneys are lying. If Alfred Brown's attorneys prove it, then that means Kim Ogg is lying. But one of the two are lying at the same time that she's fixed to prosecute one of our officers for lying. We want our officers to be held accountable, but damn sure she should too.
Right.
Yeah. Look at the attorneys who are working with Alfred Brown. Follow the trail. If you think that this isn't going to put one more feather in John Raley's hat for getting innocent people out of prison, which he didn't, Lisa did, if you think that that's going to not do something for John Raley, of course it is. These are political favors. I'm telling you. I texted one of the reporters who were sitting here and I said, if Jim Leitner's up there, ask him if he believes he's actually innocent because I know he's reviewed the report. Conveniently, he wasn't there. Great man, by the way.
All right, thank you all for coming in.
Now, it requires spending our political capital to get this job done. So I will put this simply. If climate change isn't priority number one, it's not going to get done. So I am saying this. I am pledging today that if I am given this